Munich, Germany hosts round 14. Marcus Nelson on pole from Sebastian Ocampo and Revo, making it an all-champion top 4. You've got Cable in 4th, followed by Pablo Sierra and Akari Lopez. Tommy starts 7th from Daniel Bogdasarov and Bastian Tan. Then Dav Sanchez, winner last time out, only 10th this time from Babnas Jr. and Oscar Folstad, championship leader. Tenali Gabo starts 13th from Remy LeBeau and Anok Few. Then you've got the other co-runner of the Red Devil, Santino Milan, Mohamed Nawawi, Zach Wallace, fresh off of his first points. Then you got Zay Lane, Pierre Gasly, and Leo. Well, at the site of his first championship triumph, Marcus Nelson starting on pole today. Can he take his first one of the season? As we are underway in Germany. Brilliant start from Sebastian Ocampo off the line. Nelson covering him off as he should. The top 4 all former World Drivers champions, and Ocampo, the reigning champion, getting done by Revo and having to cut a corner, cutting across one of those turns. It's a DS Achida 1-2 out there with Marcus Nelson leading the field, and Ocampo looking for a way past. Chaos in the back part of the field. As look at this with Pablo Sierra in the number 77. He's found his way from 5th to 3rd, but Ocampo, wise as always, getting himself back up into that 3rd position. And we can take a look at Folstad. Yes, he's down in 11th, and he is doing as much damage limitation as possible as he is outside of the points. And an on-point score right now for him could be devastating for his championship challenge. 2 of them in a row with his compatriots, of course, scoring massive points like they are currently, could kill his championship challenge. But for the Braun Honda number 89 of Cable, this is the race of the season currently for him, as he's fighting with Pablo onto the main straight, funneling into a single file line as Marcus Nelson does lead the field with the fastest lap, may I add, from Revo and Sebastian Ocampo. The top 3, Akari Lopez on board with the number 10 for Aurelio Pinnacle Motorsport. As look at that, almost contact between the 2 Philippine drivers, the 10 and the 72. Akari just about holding on to 7th position. Field a lot closer than it was at the start of the season, and yet somehow Marcus Nelson is running away with this race lead of 1.11 seconds ahead of his own teammate, 1.2 now, as they now funnel through and into the second one of these chicanes. The original configuration of this track was a lot wider and a lot quicker, and in fact it's the same configuration that they used in the Emilia-Romagna race in the FG series. As they now come through the final 2 turns, they do classify this next one as a turn, but it is really just a kink left, as attack mode is officially online. Marcus Nelson setting a fastest lap, as Pablo Sierra, he is using attack mode on Ocampo, but he is dropping back. They are both dropping back from the DS Achida duo in front of them. They've got good time between the 2 of them. Not Q getting a time penalty. I'm sorry, not a time penalty. He's gotten a warning for cutting across the turn as they come through that chicane. We saw Bob for Renault Edams hitting the wall back in season 15 in Manila at the very same part of that track that we've got here. Of course, a lot of tracks do have similar, if not the exact same configurations across the world, and Leo dropping off the back of the field by quite a long margin. He's 4 seconds off the back of Zay Lane. And Marcus Nelson, look at that from him. It's like he never left. This is his 14th race back, his 14th race for DS Achida, and he's doing not even an admirable job. This is brilliant stuff from the Season 9 champion who won his first championship in this very same place 11 seasons ago. Could he take his first win this season at the same location, but 11 seasons later? We're on board with Cable, who would go on to win the following season's championship, as Bogdasarov getting a corner cut warning. And the ball certainly is not rolling as ferociously as we've seen it before. Oh my goodness, that was so close to the wall. So many drivers getting very close to hitting it. Look at that, they're going wider than Robert Kubica. And when he's trying to defend, as we're looking back with the number 7, and the gap between him and Ocampo is probably measured in light years, honestly. It says 1.5 seconds on the timing tower, but it's feels like so much more as we're on board with Tommy for the DS Venturi Formula E team, and we have received news that the Dragon Shen racing team wants to join the Formula E Monoposto Championship when it rebrands itself to the ERL Formula E Series. It's into the pits comes UK Ball and Revo as well. Alongside them, Daf Sanchez coming into the pits, and Revo did have to wait a little bit there. And not Q coming into the pits. No, that's his teammate who's come in. Santino Milan also filing into the pits as Bastien Tan gets a corner cut warning, and that's likely with his teammate. We do often see a lot of time penalties around this configuration just because of how close to the limit the drivers always get. But hopefully we don't see any more flying crashes like we saw in the FG Series race at Emilia-Romagna, and hopefully we don't see this man Zay Lane fly over the tyre barriers like we saw last time we raced at this configuration. But it is still Marcus Nelson who is heading the field and should be coming into the pits at the end of this lap, if I can add that. And yes, that is exactly what I think and hope. That is Leo, who is basically at the back of the pack. Like, I'm looking at the timing tower, and Leo quite a ways ahead of Revo, but Revo gaining. Of course, he came into the pits. He was the first man to come in. His teammates staying out, Ocampo staying out, Falstad and Remy LeBeau both come into the pits alongside them. Tenali Gabba and Enoch Q. This time, it is him coming in. Pierre Gasly also funneling himself into pit lane. Coming through the hairpin bend there, Marcus Nelson, and taking it with quite a lot of speed, if I can say that, as we look to Bastien Tan trying to close in on Daniel Bogdasarov and trying to make a move. Falstad has come out of the pits, and he is far behind the drivers he would have wanted to be fighting for position with. And in fact, I would say that probably Tenali Gallo could be fighting for position with him. Santino Milan and Remy LeBeau fighting over 17th position here. This is the lowest position I'd expect these teams to be fighting over, because their seasons have not been bad by any stretch of the word. As we now come through the hairpin and rise up through there, it's a very weird and very lovely turn as the Red Devil out of the E-Prix. Out of this race, the Red Devil for Kiro Race Co. Into the pits comes Marcus Nelson with a plethora of other drivers. Virtual safety car, once again, I'll say this has been called out, and we did not see the Kiro Renault drivers crash, and personally I don't think we know where he wrecked. But we're at lap 7 of 15. This race is moving so quickly. Nelson's coming to the pits, and he is in second. Bogdasarov is leading. Nelson second. Babinus Jr. is third from Ocampo, Sierra, and Revo. Make that Revo and Sierra in that order. As we're on board with Daniel coming through, doing the best he can for his Renault team. And I have to say, if there's anyone who you think would win this race, I would say, honestly, 100%, I am backing Marcus Nelson for this one. With 8 laps to go, he just kind of looks as if he knows what he's doing. I think that the number 13 is going to return to victory lane. And that number has only been run by 2 drivers, and both of them have been run by World Drivers' Champions. You rarely ever see number reused, but look at that from Marcus Nelson, taking the lead away from the Frenchman, who's still with him, going alongside, and expect, yes, into the pits comes Daniel Bogdasarov, and Zach Wallace, fresh off of his first point score, getting a 5-second time penalty for hitting the back of an Q there. Pablo Sierra getting a fastest sector time, and I think, yeah, he's just overtaken Revo there. Very interesting to see from the Spaniard. But where is Revo going to place his car? UK Ball's been given a corner cut warning. Down in 6th. He's fighting with Dav Sanchez there, close to contact, just about keeping it as clean as possible. Sanchez running over the curbs there. Don't want to be doing that too often. As we look to Remy LeBeau in 12th, pretty much on his own. This is the lowest, but still very interesting fight for position that we have. 4-way fight for 17th. Gasly taking that 17th position away from Babinus Jr. I can make any position sound interesting, I promise you. Bastian Tan, look at that, going down the inside of his countryman in Akari Lopez. This is going to be tight, and he's still alongside him. Not quite done with him yet, is he? They're still alongside as they now come through the double left-hand turn. Marcus Nelson, once again, a fastest lap. Now goes to Sebastian Ocampo, then to Pablo Sierra, 105 dead. Here comes Akari to try and get past the Velo champion in UK, while they go alongside each other. Fastest lap going to Bastian Tan behind these two with a brilliant draft. And here comes Bastian Tan to try and take 7th position away from the two. Akari Lopez getting a corner cut warning, and in fact, I'd say Daf Sanchez is also going to get wound up in all of this fighting. Because look at that, Lopez looking for a way to get through us and not giving a 5-second time penalty for cutting corners. You never really see that. It's always for causing a collision or for track limits, but for cutting a corner, that's his second one of the race, I guess, so they are a lot more stringent on that because, of course, cutting corners, you gain a lot more time by doing that. Zach Wallace getting a track limits warning is down the inside there. Pretty poor camera angle there to watch Bastian Tan try and make a move. But here comes Akari Lopez! Up into 6th position. They've dropped U-Cable sufficiently with 5 more laps to run. And Akari Lopez up into 6th. Here comes Bastian Tan to try and go around the outside of Daf Sanchez. We've only had one retirement in this race, and it's been a brilliant race of attrition and of offense. Look at that from Bastian to get himself ahead of Daf Sanchez. They're alongside each other. Sanchez getting a corner cut warning, muscling that white and black Andretti car through the points being positions. And for Falstad, he started 12th, he's currently in 9th. He would be gaining 2 points. Every point matters in this championship. In comes Leo to get off of those very, very worn soft tyres. As we look now to the race leader in Marcus Nelson, he should be experiencing some form of blistering. The blistering, of course, a lot worse if you're on the softs, and I would expect both Nelson and Revo to finish this race on soft tyres. The other guys who are currently out there on the softs, I'm not too confident on that. But as he now comes through the final-ish turn, Nelson will start lap 11 of 15. His teammates will be coming into the pits at the end of this lap, but with darkening skies, does he really want to go onto these soft tyres? Of course, last time out, we saw darkening skies, didn't quite rain. Sanchez also coming in, and that's hampered. Revo stop there. Inter's going on! Not again! I don't believe it. This is the second time this season Revo has come into the pits and emerged on the wrong compound. Teams are going on to Inters. This could be rain. And this could be it for Revo's Championship Challenge, honestly. There you go. Rain is falling. It's falling heavily. Inters have gone on to everyone behind Daf Sanchez. So Sanchez also went onto the wrong compound. Virtual safety car. Akari Lopez is out of this race. And he's gone over the barriers, I think. Yes, he has. Virtual safety car. And if that doesn't seal this man's race win here in Germany, then I have no clue what will. In they come then. They're going to have to double stop down at DS Automobiles, but at the same time, I kind of understand why they had to pit him. But in terms of the championship, that means this man Falstad will still be increasing his points lead over Revo. Of course, that gap could, of course, close a lot more compared to other drivers, as Ocampo is taking the lead in the pits. Attack charge being used by Marcus Nelson coming out of the pits, because you're not allowed to use attack mode during wet conditions. But now, can Nelson charge after Ocampo? Can he get that gap any closer to than what it currently is? 2.9 hundredths of a second. Can he do it? He's still all over the back of the Andretti man. He's seen an opportunity. He gets covered off by this double World Drivers' Champion, the reigning World Drivers' Champion. These two champions of different eras of this championship. As we're on board with the number 13 once again. It's been so long since we've seen him take a race win. Before the season, we had wondered if he was ever going to come back, but he has come back. And through all the podiums that he's gotten, through the many pole positions that he's gotten, the one thing that's eluded him throughout his entire return to this championship so far has been that race win. And now, with 2 to go before we're on to the final lap, Marcus Nelson sees his opportunity, but it's currently being denied by the number 76 driver in front of him in Sebastian Ocampo. Here he comes. He's found another way to go through. They're going side by side, forced off the track. Here he comes, down the inside. Marcus Nelson takes the lead of the Munich Prix in wet conditions with only a handful of laps left to go. Ocampo's coming back at him, gets covered off at the same place in the same way as Nelson was on the last lap. As they now rise through the chicane, can Nelson increase the gap? Can he build a gap, or will we have a fight to the very end? Either way, this is some brilliant racing between two world drivers champions. 5/10, 6/10 to gap. Nelson is in fact increasing his race lead, while his teammates down in 14th, now up into 13th position. He's still, once again, doing more damage limitation. It feels like every time for the past few races for Revo, it has been damage limitation. We're on to the penultimate lap of the E-Prix. Nelson leading, Ocampo second, and it's a big gap behind these guys to Pablo Sierra and Tommy, because this is the race of the season. This is the fight for position of the championship, because we've got two champions fighting over a position. The season 9 champion versus the 14 and 19 champion in Sebastian Ocampo. We're on board with the 76. We're still watching these guys duke it out for the race win here in Germany, as we're still on board with Sebastian Ocampo in the number 76. They come through the chicane, keeping it as tidy as they can in these very, very slippery conditions. And just once again, touching on Nelson's teammate in Revo, he is 7 seconds off the back of Zach Wallace. I don't see him getting points. He'd need to get past Wallace, Babness Jr. and Cable just to get the 1 point. So now Ocampo rounding the final turn, and he's going to need to bring his A game onto this. The final lap of the E-Prix. Inocu has come into the pits, likely with a puncture. Unfortunate for the Hong Kong driver. But here we are, the last lap here in Munich, Germany. Race 14 of 20 in the Formula E Monopoly Championships 20th season. They come through the chicane. Nelson is placing his car everywhere it should be to defend from the fast-charging number 76 behind him. Bastian Town getting a 5-second time penalty for cutting a corner, and considering that he is effectively on his own looking at the track map, there was no need to do it. But now they're catching up to the back of a lapped car. We've seen lapped cars impact the way a race has finished before. Babinus Jr. getting a corner cut warning, and a lot of weaving from Nelson to try and just get past. There's Leo there, and Leo holding up Ocampo. So now, coming through the final 2 turns, it's been a long, long time since I've been able to say this one. Denmark, rise out of your stands. Marcus Nelson will win the Munich E-Prix in season 20. Sebastian Ocampo will have to settle for second. Pablo Sierra, take a bow to your third position. Then you've got Tommy Bastian down in 5th. Tonali Gabo coming out in 6th. Falstad, damage limitation in 7th, followed by Remy Lebeau, Daniel Bogdasarov, and Cable, your point scorers, with Leo and Inocu both being classified a lap down. Babinus Jr. in 11th, followed by Wallace in Revo, and for Revo, I have to say, he did nothing wrong throughout that entire race. His team called him in 1 lap too early. 1 lap too early on both stints. And this is the podium then. For the first time in a long time, Marcus Nelson is a Formula E Monopoly Championship race winner. And he's done it where he won his first championship back in Munich. Following him, Sebastian Ocampo, who did not race back in season 9. He started his career back in season 13, but Pablo Sierra did race in season 9. And he was racing for Mercedes. Something that I think a lot of drivers seem to forget about him. He did race with the Mercedes team, even if he wasn't one of the best to drive with them. Following them, you've got Tinali Gabo behind Tommy. That's the intense time penalty, drops him down to 6th, but with the fastest lap. Then you've got Falstad, Remy LeBeau, Bogdasarov, and Cable, your point scorers. Your non-scorers were Babinus Jr., Revo, Zach Wallace, Santino Milan, Daf Sanchez, Pierre Gasly, Zaylane, and Mohamed Nawawi. Off the lead lap were Leo and Anotui, and your non-finishers were Akari Lopez and the Red Devil. In the driver's standings, Falstad leads the way from Revo and Bogdasarov. Then you've got Sebastian Ocampo tied with Marcus Nelson. Then you've got Daf Sanchez, Tommy, Remy LeBeau, Pablo Sierra, Babinus Jr., Vastian San, Tinali Gabo, the Red Devil, Inocuse, Cable, Santino Milan, Leo, Zach Wallace tied with Mohamed Nawawi and Zaylane, and Pierre Gasly and Akari Lopez, the rest of your scorers. So in the constructors standings, heading into the next round of the championship, DS Cheetah leading the way from DS McLaren TGR and DS Andretti. Then you've got Renault Edams joining the 200 club. Then DS Venturi Formula E team, Kiro Renault, Nissan Nismo, Sims Motorsport Nissan gaining on their suppliers, Braun Honda GP, Aurelio Pinnacle, and Mercedes EQ. We'll see you guys next time then when the Formula E Monopoly Championship returns.